call this policy meeting to order, please. Thanks everybody for being here tonight so we can go over the next in the 5000 series. And Kelly, thank you for pulling together the agenda as always. So I will turn the meeting over to you. I know you have the CABE recommended policy changes report. I don't know if there was anything particularly you wanted to discuss or if you just wanted to jump into the policies directly.
Thank you. Sorry, I was having a little technical difficulty. So we are going to review 4 policies this evening. The first 2 were on last policy meeting agenda. The first one that we're going to go over is the child abuse and neglect. We did table that policy at the last meeting, and so we want to review it. There was some discussion, and I know 2 different committee members did submit language changes. And so the purpose of reviewing this policy this evening is to discuss whether or not we want to move forward with those language changes or if we should keep the policy as is from CABE. I was also asked to follow up with CABE, which I did. It is their recommendation, while it is always the board's decision whether or not to make revisions, it is their strong recommendation and suggestion that as much as possible, we stick to the language of the policy.
Just give Juanita a second here. She's connecting via Zoom.
Sure.
Hello.
Hi, Juanita.
Hi there.
We just started the meeting. Thanks for jumping on. And Kelly was just giving us a little bit of an update in the conversation that she had with CABE. Kelly,
Okay.
do you mind repeating that so that Juanita can be caught up to
Sure.
speed? Thank you.
Of course. So Anita, we are reviewing the reporting of child abuse, neglect, and sexual assault policy. That was the policy at the last meeting that we decided to table. We did have 2 committee members submit potential language changes, and I was also asked to follow up with CABE regarding, question about should we be changing language within the policy. Their response was, although we have the liberty to change language as much as possible, it would be their strong recommendation to try to stick with the language in the policy. But we are here to discuss whether or not we want to make any tweaks to the CABE policy.
So if you don't mind my interjecting, Kelly, I'm just going to sort of bring the suggestions that were made to the table for discussion now.
Perfect. Thank you, Kate.
Okay, let me just pull those documents up. And I just want to say thank you to Juanita and to Terry for the recommendations that they've made. So let me pull that up. All right. So Juanita, you submitted your suggestions first. We'll go over those.
Okay.
You wanted to take, there were 2 sentences that were appeared in a different part of the policy that you suggested moving down to the area which discusses if an employee is involved in the investigation, right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and so those 2 sentences, just so that everybody is on the same page, I just want to pull up full policy and make sure I read it properly. Apologize, clicking a bunch of screens here. All right. So the second sentence in, any person applying for employment with the board shall submit to a record check at the Department of Children and Families Child Abuse and Neglect Registry before the person may be hired. That was 1 sentence. And then the second sentence was such individuals who have reasonable cause to suspect or believe that a child has been abused, neglected, placed in an imminent risk of serious harm, or sexually assaulted by a school employee is required to report such abuse and or neglect or risk and or sexual assault. So I just wanted to open that up for conversation amongst the members here and see what we can do to get this rolling. This is not a language change. This is just a position change for
Right.
two at the sentence.
Thank you for clarification. Kelly, I did hear when you said that they recommend that you do not change the language. This is not a language change. It's just a movement of moving it from the area that was particularly talking about students, clearly talking about the abuse reporting of students. And then it goes on later on to talk about staff. So it just seemed to me that moving the section that says any person applying for employment, move that down to staff, and individuals who have reasonable cause to suspect or believe that a child has been abused, neglected, imminent danger, sexually assaulted by a school employee, that just seemed to fit in more further down when we're talking about staff and the district. So that was my recommendation.
Gladys or Michelle, did either of you want to express any thoughts about those changes?
I listened to Kelly's recommendation from Cave, and I know it's not, we're really changing language changes, but did they have objection to moving it from one area to the other? And like I'm not no lawyer. I don't know why it came through Cave, but is it best to leave it as is or change it? You know, we change it, and then a couple of years later, we know it might not benefit the board or the district. So I really don't know. The proper thing to do is to move it, change it. If it had been a big language change, I could see that. But just moving it from one position to the other, I need to understand that a little bit more.
I think if I can just weigh in, I think we just want to make sure that we're not substantially changing the content of the policy. I can't speak to exactly why it was put in one paragraph versus the other. But what we do know is that CABE goes through extensive reviews of these policies. So I'm sure they had a rationale for that. But I don't think by moving a sentence from one paragraph to the next, you're substantially changing the content of it. But I do think we need to be cautious moving forward anytime we're engaging in language changes that we're not accidentally, changing the meaning of the policy.
Thank you, Kelly, for that answer.
Michelle, you looks like you were unmuting for a second there. Okay, I don't see any motion there, so I just go ahead, Michelle.
Did I finish or did you hear me? I'm not sure. Did I go?
We didn't hear you. I'm
through?
sorry.
Okay, so you hear me now. I'm sorry. I said I'm fine if we relocate the sentence. I don't think it changes the messaging and the content. So I'm fine with moving it. If you on my way in.
Thank you. Yes. I just want to throw out there my thinking in reviewing this more closely, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that because again, last time I just was having some trouble hearing. So the second sentence, from moving that second sentence, I think makes a lot of sense. The only thought I have about the first sentence and moving that is that I think part of what that sentence does where it's positioned is to set an expectation right out of the gate with this policy and with what we're doing, that anybody who's getting hired by our district is going to be undergoing a background check. And I don't have a problem moving moving it, but I think there's a benefit to keeping it where it is in that it sets that expectation very clearly to anybody who's looking at the policy that every single person who's part of our district is going to be subject to this, to the background check. And we're doing that to make sure that we're keeping students and faculty safe. Okay, I don't see any feedback on this. Can we talk also about the recommendations that came forward from Terry? I'm just gonna pull those up real quick as well. I believe it was for the same policy. So the suggested wording, which everybody got with the distribution of the invitation here, Terry was looking to specify in that first sentence, the Board of Education recognizes its legal and ethical obligations in reporting of suspected child abuse and neglect, either in school or out of school, and specifying in school or out of school. Kelly, if I remember correctly, you said last time that the policy does apply in this manner, whether we explicitly state it or not.
That is correct.
Okay. And so from a legal standpoint, I'm not sure that's going to have any consequence for us because it's the law, whether we state it or not. But I'm looking for feedback from other committee members if they have any concerns about or thoughts about that suggestion.
The only thing that comment that I would have is this is truly a language change.
Okay. Given that the legal implication is there already, I don't think it will create any additional legal consequences for us because we're already legally obligated to honor that. There may be a benefit for some people reading the policy to understand if a situation does come forward. If it's stated explicitly in the policy, it may help their understanding as to why something was reported. I'm not sure what the drawback might be, but I'm certainly open to the conversation about that.
Kate?
Go ahead, Michelle.
I was thinking along the same lines. If you're not somebody who's aware of the law, then I don't see why it wouldn't hurt to, put it in. And just if you're kind of reading it and you may, be learning about what the policies are or aren't, I don't see how it could hurt. I know we don't want to add extra stuff in, but I kind of agree with what you just said. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Anyone else?
I agree. It doesn't change the content.
Okay. The other recommendation that came forward from Terry was sort of outlining and making a list of all of the different positions that appear in the policy as a subset so that it's clearer and we explicitly, list these out in a way that appears clearer to the folks who might be reading this policy. I don't see any language change, and I just want to confirm that that's the case, Kelly. You didn't see any as well? Did any other members see any other language change in there? I believe it's the same list. It's just separated out so that it's explicit.
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
Indenting the language, not changing it.
Okay. Given that those were the suggestions that were made and we've had the conversation about them, I am amenable and I hope that the rest of the group is, based on what I'm hearing, to make a recommendation to the full board for a first read of this policy with the suggested changes. including the 2-sentence relocations, the addition of either in school or out of school, and the listing out of the specific positions.
What do you need? Do you need a motion?
I need a motion, please.
Okay. So I make a motion that we submit for first reading to the Board of Ed, the adjustments made to policy 5141.4, moving the two, do I have to say exactly? Moving the two paragraphs and including the words either in school or out of school as a language change.
Perfect.
I'll
Thank you.
I'll
May I-
second it.
Thank you, Michelle. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion so carries. Thank you all. Kelly, feel free.
Okay. So moving on to the next policy. The next policy is our directory information policy. And so just give me a moment to pull it up on the screen. This was one that was on the last agenda, so it is the second time you've seen this policy, but we did not engage in formal discussion regarding this policy at the last meeting due to time constraints.
Kelly, I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of trouble. I don't know if
Just
anybody
give me
else is.
one additional
Yes.
moment to pull it up. It's acting a little slow for me on my end.
She's kind of going in and out.
Okay. Let me send a
Directory
quick message.
information, allowing us to release limited information on a student. Can you pull it up for us, please? Thank you.
Do you want the current one or the revised one, Kelly?
Revise, please. Thank you.
Yep.
The directory information policy allows us to release limited information about students, such as their name, first and last name, address, sometimes telephone numbers, things of that nature. Oftentimes it will be done, for example, at the elementary school level in distributing a class roster, maybe for, so parents can reach out to each other to make. Are you having trouble hearing me still?
We are,
Okay,
it's kind of
in and out.
cutting out and out a little bit.
Kim, let me log back off and back on. I think there's.
Or do you want to
something
call
with
in on
my
your phone,
internet.
Cal?
I'll be right back. I can do that. I have switched devices. I think that might help.
Thank you.
This isn't letting me scroll. Hold on. Can't.
Yeah, do you want me to try to to share?
It's not letting me scroll for some reason.
Hold on.
Yeah, can you scroll it? Wait, we need the recommend, yeah, that one.
This, yeah, loading. Very slow.
Yeah. I kept getting dropped at work today too. There's something going on.
A lot of wind also.
Yeah. I'm hoping we don't lose the power, please.
Yeah.
I can't cope with that tonight. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I could scroll.
Okay. Can you make it a little bit bigger?
I sure can.
Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Yep.
I apologize
Yes.
for that.
All right, Cal, I got the zoomed in here.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the directory information policy, as I said before, I'll restart, allows us to provide some limited information such as first and last name, address, telephone number, without express consent from a parent. What our current policy allows us, every parent has the right to opt out of this, meaning if they do not want their child's information to be released, that they have the right at the beginning of every school year, we notify them that if you would like to opt out or not be privy to this information going out to others, that you need to let them know in writing. You will see that under the alternative language in this section, and I would recommend that we adopt that. The reason for this is there are oftentimes situations in which we want to share student contact information. So for example, at the elementary level, it's not uncommon for principals or PTOs to put together a directory of everyone in the classroom so that we can help to facilitate maybe outside of school connections such as play dates and so forth. Also, it allows us to do a roster of students that are in the class, maybe for a celebration, holiday activity, things like that. So here it's really important to note that it's very limited information on a child that we would release. And it is only, so we don't have to ask for a signed permission every single time we release some basic information to help facilitate educational activities. But a parent always reserves the right to tell us, we do not want you to release that information. And so, as I said before, the additional language, I would definitely recommend that we consider that as continuing our opt out, as we, I think it's a easier way to facilitate the limited number of parents that currently opt to do this.
Kelly, when you say limited number, are we talking 100? Are we talking?
Under that currently.
Okay. Across the district, okay.
Mhm.
Are there questions or feedback from committee members?
I would just like to ask a question, Kate. How many people have the access to that information, Kelly? If someone is, you need to contact someone or something about the child, and one main person is not there, is there a second person, or
Is this meaning like a parent, like if we call, let's say mom, and we're not able to get contacted, then we'd have an alternate number? Is that the question you're asking me?
right? Or
Yep.
who in the school system has that has that information on
Sure.
that child?
So all of our certified staff members, our building administrators, our building secretaries have access to PowerSchool, which is our student information system. And this has very detailed information on each student. So for example, the parents or guardians of that child, any emergency family contacts are listed in there. This policy is simply referring to very basic information. We cannot reveal detailed information. So for example, the things that this policy does not allow is it does not allow us to share academic information, report cards, reading scores, SBAC scores. All of those types of information are protected by FERPA, which are confidentiality rules similar to HIPAA that protect student academic records. And so if we're releasing anything of content regarding the student's academic program, we first need express consent, so written consent from the parent or the guardian to do that. So sometimes we'll see parents, students that are participating with some of our community partners, right? They might be going to an after-school program with Jericho, or they might be they might see a a social worker at Family and Children's Aid. Any of those people have the right to request information, but we will only give it to them if the parent or legal guardian of that child signs permission for us to do so.
Thank you for answering the question. Thank you.
Kate?
Go right ahead.
Oh, thanks. So if you don't opt out at the beginning of the year, let's say when everything kind of gets released, but for some reason you choose halfway through the year that you want to, opt out, is that an option, or is it just a one time a year open
Great question.
enrollment? Thank
You
you.
you reserve the right at any time to opt your child out of this information. We notify parents or guardians annually at the beginning of every year. Just a reminder, if you don't tell us otherwise, your student is part of this directory information and we have the right to release this limited information. But at any point in time, the parent or guardian could choose to opt out or opt in, and we would make that change accordingly.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this policy?
Can I just say something? Am I still here?
Go ahead, Wanda.
Okay, so I know that parents are informed at the beginning of the year in the packet, Guide to School, with everything else that they're given at the beginning of the year. And so just for discussion's sake, in light of, some of the climate that we're in, do you think it might, or is there any other time during the school year that this information might go out again?
So at currently, Ms. Harris, there is not another time that we release this information in current practice. The law requires annual notification. I certainly understand the question and the discussion around, is it something we should be doing more often?
Kelly, as a follow-up to that question, if we have students that join the district mid-year, is it standard practice to distribute that as part of the information that's given to them?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good question.
And I'm sorry, Kelly, I just want to ask one more question. You talked about the optional information. Are you talking about that box that's listed in the alternative language box
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yes, on the first page, it's like the second paragraph where it says alternative language. I would suggest we do the opt-out. Otherwise, every year we would have to get permission from every single one of the 12,000 students. And most districts handle this as an opt-out.
And that would replace the first paragraph?
That is correct.
Thank you for clarifying. The other two boxes that are listed on here, I apologize, I'm just jumping right back in. The other two boxes that are listed on here would be standard in the policy, is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Minus, I apologize, let me clarify. The second box, yes. The third box, the note section there is one there that says see version 2 that was not recommended. So we would strike through that see version 2. It does not belong there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I am looking for a motion to recommend policy 5145.15, directory information, to the board for a first read.
So moved.
Thank you, Anita. Is there a second, please?
Second.
All right, thank you, Michelle. All those
You-
in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, thank you so much. Kelly, we can move on to 5145.4, non-discrimination.
And Kara, I think you are driving. If you scrolled, you can go back out or just scroll down. It's the next policy down. So this policy is a non-discrimination policy that is particularly focused around racial harassment and discrimination of students. And so I will, this is the updated recommended policy from CABE, and certainly any one of us on the committee can answer questions that you may have pursuant to this policy.
So hopefully everyone's had a chance to read through this policy. You will see that it breaks down the policy now by those two different components. So that is a new aspect to this policy. Are there any questions about it?
When somebody, I'm sorry, Kate, or someone just give me the highlight of how it's been changed, or is this a new policy? Is that what we're saying?
It's an updated policy, Michelle.
Updated?
Um,
Can
yeah,
you
and it's just,
point out the update, or have somebody point out what the update is exactly? I know it's these two, but
sure.
sorry.
So I'm not sure it's, and Kelly, if you'd rather step in, I'm more than happy to step back.
You can go ahead and then I can certainly supplement.
Okay, sure. So the previous policy really kind of goes into, sorry, I just want to make sure I have it right in front of me here. It starts with sexual harassment, and then it defines that harassment. And then it talks about how harassment could be based on race, color, gender, national origin, ancestry, religious creed, pregnancy, marital status, disability, and/or sexual orientation. And then it lays out the specific types of forms of harassment. The second version of this updated policy from CABE is a little bit more explicit, and it speaks directly to racial harassment, in very specific ways. And then, goes into, are these two different policies here? They are.
The
I
numbers,
apologize.
the numbers have changed in the series, but they're one. right-
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I apologize because I think I was getting confused here. Because 5145.5 sort of encompasses all of those things, whereas the new policies now split it into two different policies. Am I reading that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Looks like.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the racial harassment is split into its own policy, 5145.42, and the sexual harassment is split into policy 5145.5. The content is pretty similar. The language is very similar from one policy to the other. It's just organized a little differently.
Okay, that's what I was saying. So as far as like attorney or verbiage, it's the same policy, it's just broken out two different ways. Is that basically what we're saying, Kelly?
One highlights, one is focused primarily, the one we're speaking about right now, on non-discrimination regarding race, and really talks about not just discriminatory behaviors, but retaliatory behaviors, and then requires us to have an investigatory process, which is further explained in this policy compared to the previous one. We'll go into the harassment one next, which again, each one of these policies, the essence of the content of them is just a little bit more explicit and specific, not so much changing the rules or regulations in which we're following.
So can you give me an example of what this, can you give me an example of how is it different now if I am, you know, a student in the school, how is it different? In other words, how is that more clearly defined in the everyday versus just, you know, if I'm reading this policy? Can you give me an example of
So the language,
the, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you could give me an example, what I'm looking at is this the same policy broken out in two ways so we can, you know, read it like we've just done previously? Or, you know, sometimes just changing slight words can, you know, change the impact. So I'm just, if I'm in school, how is this on a daily, you know, being applied different? Is it different in my day to day? Can you give me an example of what we're talking about?
As a student, I do not believe that changing from the former policy to this policy changes the practice that we do at all. We, you know, discrimination regarding race or any other area has always been prohibited, and we have
Mhm.
had a requirement to investigate it and then act upon it.
Okay.
The policy, when you ask how it's different in the written form, it is more explicit. It adds in a component about retaliation and a component about investigation that were not explicit in the original policy.
So the retaliation, can you give
It-
me an example of that and the investigation? How does that process look? What does that look like? That we're adding in should, you know, to kind of enforce
It
this a
doesn't
little bit further.
it doesn't change the legal requirements, Michelle, that we were following. It just is more expressed and explicit in this policy.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions from committee members? Okay. So we'll start with the first policy here, the non-discrimination, racial harassment of students. That's policy 5145.42. I'm looking for a motion to make a recommendation to the board for first read.
So moved.
Thank you,
Juanita.
Juanita. And is there a second on that, please? I do need a second on this motion in order to bring it to the full board.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Gladys. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Why?
Any? Thank you. Motion so carries. All right, and then given that we've had the conversation now about the second component of this, I will look for a motion to make a recommendation to the board for first read on policy 5145.5 on exploitation and sexual harassment. Is there a motion for policy 5145.5?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Juanita. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Gladys. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, thank you. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening. I appreciate everybody being here. I know it was a lot to get through, and I appreciate your support. All right, with that in mind, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Okay. Jill, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Juanita. All those in favor, please signify one more time, please, by saying aye.
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 Aye.